The United Nations has lofty, universal goals for the collective progress and peace among mankind. This noble spirit is often shrouded by the letter of its numerous charters. The effectiveness of the UN is hence curtailed by the legal definitions of keywords such as torture, genocide, and voluntary repatriation. This video explores the problems with these definitions, beginning with torture. Issues of torture are not new to us. With the release of the pictures, or rather the proof of torture at Abu Ghraib prison in 2004, there has been a re-emergence of torture that has been felt on a global scale. The pictures have exposed loopholes in the 1994 United Nations Convention Against Torture, as a consequence of a lack of clear definition of what constitutes torture. Despite a 2002 memorandum that defined torture to be equivalent to serious injuries like organ failure, impairment of bodily function, and death, the memorandum discounted other forms of torture, like mental torture, that was used in the prison through methods that played on the fears of prisoners. Resulting from the definitional ambiguity of torture, it was hard to pinpoint the fault of the American military officers and to accuse the Americans of contravening the convention. The effectiveness of the convention can only truly be felt if amendments are made to allow a holistic definition of key terms. These same issues apply, but on a greater scale, to genocide, which is the mass extermination of a group of people. At the heart of this simple idea is a complicated tangle of legal definitions. This has led to conflicting views on when a mass killing or forced movement of people can be called genocide. Article 2 of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. UN officers deployed to zones where genocide has been purported to take place encounter difficulty assessing the situation as an insider. In such cases, the situation may be dealt with inaccurately as mass killings or political massacres rather than genocides are perceived. Although viewing the massacre from the point of view of the international community enables a macro perspective, international politics come to play where international actors decide the merits of the genocidal accusation based on their capability to intervene in the event that a genocide was indeed taking place. An example would be the Rwanda genocide of 1994. What is needed is a more clear definition of genocide so that it is more easily recognizable when it does occur. If that occurs, Article 8 of the Convention will allow the UN to take action to stop or prevent genocide rather than prosecuting those who committed the genocide after it occurred. Since its adoption, the UN Treaty has come under fire from different sides, mostly by people frustrated with the difficulty of applying it to different cases. Some analysts contend that the definition is so narrow that none of the mass killings perpetrated since the treaty's adoption would fall under it. The objections most frequently raised against the treaty include the following. Voluntary repatriation is a final and equally problematic concept. The Rohingyas were Burmese refugees that had fled to Bangladesh in 1977, and illustrate an instance where the UNHCR used a definition of voluntariness that violated the concept of voluntary repatriation. There is evidence that the UNHCR manipulated information and bribed the refugees in order to get their consent. First, the UNHCR developed alternative measures of voluntariness from individual interviewers as an objective assessment of whether life was better in Burma relative to the camps. This transferred authority over determinations of safety from the refugees who were taking the risks to the UNHCR, thus opening the door to violations of refugee rights. Furthermore, in 1994, surveys carried out in non-transit camps revealed that a majority of refugees were not interested in repatriation under the current conditions. However, the UNHCR conducted a second set of interviews several days later, where they concluded that nearly 97% of refugees wanted to return. NGOs suspecting coercion found evidence that between these surveys, several refugees had been beaten by Bangladeshi officials for what they called anti-repatriation activities, and that these officials were never reprimanded. Further NGO investigation revealed that the vast majority of refugees said they had not been informed that they had the right to refuse repatriation, a clear violation of the UN's definition of voluntariness. The adverse consequences of this is that the UNHCR enforces repatriation under less than ideal conditions. They operate with limited information and have a strong interest in seeing an improved Burma, with little motivation to find disconcerting evidence. Hence, the UNHCR claimed that repatriation could proceed because Burma was stable, but these observations ran counter to the claims of NGOs on the ground. In addition to this, the UNHCR claimed that it could monitor the safe return and reintegration of the refugees, but the UNHCR's capability to monitor return is The gulf between the UN rhetoric and reality has, is, and will continue to hamper the world's efforts to realize further progress and peace among humanity. International organizations constantly grapple externally with balancing the interests of powerful member nations and internally with their legal definitions. Definitions have to constantly evolve to encompass world developments, and the onus is on member nations to remain accountable to the stated purpose of the United Nations.